They say when you die, your life flashes before your eyes. That's not what happened to me. What happened was silence. A silence so deep it made sound feel like a lie. 1 second, I was laughing at some dumb meme my friend Josh sent me. The next, I was staring into a frozen blur of metal, glass, and screaming faces suspended in time. Then, everything turned white. My name is Ethan Miller. I'm 15 years old. Or I was. It happened on the way to school. A regular Tuesday in suburban Ohio. The sky was that kind of cold gray that feels like it's judging you. The school bus had just merged onto I-71. I was sitting halfway back, earbuds in, listening to something ambient and weird. Elon Musk had dropped another AI-generated soundscape, and I was pretending to understand it. The last thing I remember before the crash was thinking, why does this music feel so empty? Then impact. I didn't feel pain. Just the sense that something irreversible had happened. A ripping. A pulling. Like my soul got vacuumed through the top of my skull. And then, silence. I hovered above the scene, weightless, bodiless, aware. The bus was crumpled like paper. Smoke coiled from the hood. Blood smeared across shattered glass. Time didn't move. Not forward. Not back. Just stopped. I saw myself. That was the first thing that broke me. Seeing my own body, limp, twisted, the side of my face cut open like a red river, made me want to scream. But I had no mouth. No lungs. I just was. Then the air began to ripple. At first I thought it was the heat off the engine. But it wasn't heat. It was geometry, sacred, terrifying. Shapes folding inside themselves, like the world's code was glitching. A tunnel formed, but it wasn't a tunnel. It was alive. And from that light, he stepped forward. He didn't glow. He didn't need to. His presence was enough to make reality bend. Not terrifying, but impossible to ignore. Tall, barefoot, wrapped in linen that moved like smoke. His face was familiar in the way the sky is familiar. He looked at me with eyes that saw through every mask I'd ever worn. I don't know how I knew it was Jesus. But I knew. He didn't speak at first. Just stood there in the folds of shimmering time, letting me remember who I was. I felt naked. Not physically. Spiritually. Every lie I told, every scroll through meaningless posts, every whispered prayer I ignored before sleeping, all of it swirled around us. Then he spoke. But not with words. With truth. Ethan. This is not your time. But you must see what's coming. You must return, changed. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. But none of them mattered. I felt something pouring into me, not knowledge, not visions. Something deeper. A knowing. A warning. He reached out and touched my shoulder. And the light exploded. I woke up gasping. Hospital ceiling. Blinding lights. My mother sobbing beside me. I'd been in a coma for 2 weeks. They said it was a miracle. I wanted to scream, it wasn't a miracle. It was a message. But I couldn't speak. Not yet. My throat was dry. My body was weak. Only my soul was burning. Because I saw something. And it wasn't just about me. It was about Elon Musk. About Trump. About a war that hadn't even fully started yet. About a deception so vast it had already consumed the hearts of millions. And at the center of it all, one clear, unshakable truth. The only salvation is in prayer. The only escape is in God. They kept saying I was lucky. Ethan, you're a miracle, the nurses said. God must have plans for you, the chaplain whispered. But no one really meant it. To them, it was just polite noise. I saw it in their eyes. The way people look at someone who came too close to the edge. Like I was radioactive. But they didn't see what I saw. They didn't know. The hospital room was quiet at night. My mom had gone home to shower. The monitors beeped like a ticking metronome, measuring a life I wasn't sure belonged to me anymore. That's when the second experience began. It didn't happen like the first, no crash, no tunnel, no explosion. It was slower. Deeper. Like sinking into warm black water. I blinked, and the room was gone. I stood in a vast white space that felt both infinite and enclosed. Like a cathedral with no ceiling. There were no walls, yet it held me in place like gravity. I looked down and saw no shadow. Just light. Then I heard them. Whispers. Dozens of voices, maybe hundreds. They echoed in a language I didn't know, but somehow understood. Each whisper was a confession, a prayer, a scream. Names. Faces. Power. Blood. Then a screen appeared before me. Not like a TV or tablet. This screen was alive. A pulsing rectangle of light that hovered in front of me like it was waiting for permission. It turned on by itself. The first image, Elon Musk. He stood in a dark room, staring at a massive model of Earth. Around him were other men, some in suits, others faceless, their features blurred like corrupted files. They didn't speak. They transmitted thought. I felt something watching me through the screen. Elon reached into a black case and pulled out a small object. It looked like a neural implant, but shaped like an eye, with tiny mechanical lashes. It will connect them, he said. One mind. One system. One order. The screen shifted. Now I saw a crowd. Millions of people. Each wore something on their temples, those same eye-shaped implants. They didn't smile. They didn't blink. They didn't pray. Then the voice of Jesus returned, not as a whisper now, but as thunder that didn't shake the air, only the soul. They are building a tower again. Not of stone, but of code. They seek heaven without me. The image shattered like glass, and another took its place. Donald Trump. But not how I remembered him. He looked different. Older. Colder. His eyes glowed faintly, unreal, mechanical. He stood behind a podium in a stadium, and the people cheered like animals. Behind him, fire. A city burning. He raised his hand, and they fell silent. He spoke a single phrase. In my name, we take the land. Then I saw maps. Military units. Walls being built and blown apart. The Middle East aflame. The word Israel appeared in blood-red letters across the sky. Underneath it, 2025 pulsed like a heartbeat. Children crying. Men praying into rifles. Flags raised over broken bodies. And the voice said, This is not a war of nations. It is a war of spirits. And they do not know whom they serve. I dropped to my knees. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The visions burned into me like scars. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. Because I knew now. This was real. I whispered through tears. Why show me this? And the voice replied gently. Because you are not called to fear. You are called to pray. Not for victory. Not for vengeance. But for mercy. There is still time, Ethan. For you. For them. But it runs thin. I opened my eyes back in the hospital bed, sweat-drenched, heart pounding, but calm in a way I'd never known. I couldn't explain it to my mom. Or the doctors. Or even Josh when he visited, cracking jokes like nothing had changed. But everything had. Because I wasn't just recovering. I was remembering. I was preparing. And somewhere in my chest I knew. This world is sleepwalking into something monstrous. And the only way out is through prayer. It started with static. Not on a screen or the radio. In my head. Like a distant frequency was trying to break through my thoughts. I would be brushing my teeth, or eating cereal, and suddenly, ZZZTTTKK. Ethan, ZZZTTTKK. At first, I thought it was trauma. Leftover brain fog from the coma. But deep down, I knew better. Something had seen me. It began the night I tried to pray out loud for the first time. It was late. My mom was asleep on the couch in the hospital room, her hand still clutching her phone like a lifeline. The nurses had dimmed the lights. I stared out the window, watching the fog roll across the parking lot like breath from something vast. I whispered, Jesus, Are you still there? The second I said his name, the static snapped into focus. Not out loud, again, it was inside. Like someone hijacked my inner monologue. And then came the other voice. Flat. Dry. Almost human. Stop talking to him. I froze. My mouth went dry. You don't understand what you're playing with, Ethan. I didn't answer. I just clenched my fists under the blanket and forced myself to pray anyway. Jesus, protect me. You were chosen. But not by him. The lights flickered. My phone beeped wildly. A coldness filled the room, not physical, but spiritual, like someone had sucked the warmth out of my soul. Then a shape moved past the window. Faster than human. Wrong in its motion, like it didn't understand gravity. Its face pressed against the glass, my face. Smiling. But the smile was too wide. Eyes too empty. I whispered, "In Jesus' name, leave me." Gone. Like it had never been there. The cold lifted. The monitor stabilized. The next day, the psychiatrist visited. Dr. Reiner. Harvard degree, soft voice, suspicious eyes. She asked me questions that didn't sound like real questions. How are you sleeping, Ethan? Any strange thoughts? Have you ever felt like the world is not what it seems? I nodded cautiously. Her pen scratched faster. Then she asked something that didn't belong. When he showed you the tower, did he tell you who the architect was? I stared at her. I hadn't told anyone about the tower. That night, I searched her name. Dr. Elaine Reiner. Former DARPA consultant. Cognitive warfare specialist. Ties to a biotech company called Lucidium Corp. One of their recent projects, neural pattern interception. They weren't trying to heal me. They were trying to intercept the message. On the third night after the vision, a boy came to visit. Not a patient. Not a nurse. He looked maybe 16, but his eyes were ancient. He sat by my bed without asking. You've seen him, he said calmly. I nodded. So have I, he said. But they're hunting me now. The ones who whisper. His name was Caleb. From Tennessee. Said he'd flatlined after a hiking accident. Said he'd seen the tower too, only in his vision it opened. Inside it was something neither alive nor dead, wearing a robe of data and wings of metal. A false messiah. They're building it in code. A digital Eden. One language, one thought, one God, them. I asked him how he escaped. He looked me dead in the eye. Prayer. Constant. Unbroken. It's the only signal they can hijack. Before I could speak, a nurse came in. Who are you talking to, Ethan? I turned. The chair was empty. No visitor log. No cameras caught him. But under my blanket, I found a scrap of notebook paper, torn and hastily scribbled. They fear one thing, a praying generation. I started praying every hour. At first, I did it in my head. Then out loud. I didn't care if anyone heard. I read Psalms. I recited the Lord's Prayer like it was oxygen. I stopped watching TV, deleted social apps. I felt like every screen wanted to feed me something rotten. Because now I knew. This wasn't just my near-death experience. This was a war. And they knew I was awake. I wasn't supposed to leave the hospital that day. But something pushed me. Not fear, urgency. Like a clock was ticking, and every second I stayed quiet, another soul slipped further into the dark. The nurse said the MRI machine was down again. Electrical surges. Lights flickering on the third floor. They called it a glitch. But I knew better. The ones who whisper were closing in. So I left. My mom thought I was still resting. But I walked straight out of the hospital, into the gray breath of a Midwest morning. The sky looked like static. I had only one destination in mind, the church. Not for comfort. Not for ritual. But for war. The little brick chapel stood abandoned at the edge of town. It had closed months ago. Insufficient attendance, they said. That was the real sickness, wasn't it? People stopped praying. and something else took their place. The inside smelled like dust and sorrow. Broken pews. A shattered stained glass angel bleeding rainbow light onto the cold stone floor. I walked down the aisle like I was stepping into a furnace. Every part of me burned. The moment I reached the altar, I dropped to my knees. And this time, I didn't whisper. I shouted. Jesus! I saw them. I see them. And they know I'm still here. But you brought me back, for a reason. So I'm not leaving until you give me the words. And he did. It didn't come as thunder. It came as wind. The entire chapel shook. The dust lifted in spirals. The broken glass reassembled itself for one moment, just one, long enough for me to see his face again in the window. And he said, "Speak. They have filled the world with false light. But you will carry the flame they cannot counterfeit." Then I saw them. They entered the church through shadows, through corners, through thoughts. Forms without form. Faces that flickered like broken holograms. They wore the faces of people I loved, my mom, my friends, even me. They smiled. "Ethan," one said, "you don't have to do this. You can be free. Just give up the name." But I spoke it louder. "Jesus." The walls shook. They flinched. "Jesus, Son of God." They hissed. One screamed in a voice that sounded like 1,000 reverse radio stations all playing at once. "Jesus Christ, save me!" They burned. Not with fire, but with truth. They couldn't stand in that name. They folded into light and collapsed into nothing, as if they had never been real, because in his presence they weren't. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was lying on the floor, clutching a Bible I hadn't brought. Pages open to Psalm 91. "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." I smiled for the first time in weeks. Not because the fight was over, but because I knew who was fighting with me. Now I speak. Everywhere. To whoever will listen. TikTok, Reddit, schools, YouTube, back alleys, church basements. And here's what I tell them. You're being distracted. By noise. By screens. By idols wearing lab coats and promises of a better world. They want to digitize your soul. Connect your mind to their code. They'll call it evolution. Integration. Enlightenment. It's slavery. And the only firewall is prayer. The only exit code is Christ. I shouldn't be here. But I am. Not because I'm strong. Not because I'm special. Because he heard me when I called. And he'll hear you. Right now. Wherever you are. Whatever you've done. If you say his name, not like a hashtag, but like a lifeline, he will answer. Jesus. Just say it. The name that breaks chains. The name that cannot be hacked. The name the shadows still fear. This is not a story. It's a warning. It's an invitation. Because the war isn't coming. It's already here. And your only weapon is prayer.